a powerful
A powerful Atlantic storm has battered large part of Europe, triggering widespread flooding, travel chaos and emergency evacuation across several countries. Meteorologists describe the system as one of the most aggressive early-season storms in the last decade, fueled by unusually warm sea temperatures and rapid pressure drops. In Germany, rivers in Bavaria and Saxony overflowed within hours, inundated streets, cutting off village and forcing rescue teams to deploy boats. Local authorities reported over 300 emergency calls in a single night. The water rose faster than anything we think since 2013, said firefighters Moscow later. France forced hurricane force gusts exceeding 114 km/h, chopping trees, damaged power lines and leaving more than 115,000 homes without electricity. In Normandy, schools remained closed after roofs were torn off and coastal towns were hit by dangerous storm surge. In Italy, the storm triggered landslides in Liguria and Tuscany, where saturated hillsides collapsed onto roads. Authorities urged residents to avoid rivers and water level reach what officials called critical and unpredictable heights. Meanwhile, the Netherlands activated its renowned flood defense battery and Tate combined heavy rainfall. Engineers said it's move as precautionary but necessary, noting that climate-driven sea levels rise is increasingly stressing the country's coastal defense. Airports across the continent reported cascading delays, while train service in Belgium, Poland and Austria were suspended due to fallen trees and flooded tracks. Experts warn that storms of the magnitude may become more frequent. We are witness to fingerprints of climate change on Europe weather patterns, said Dr. Elena Varga from the European Climate Observatory. Authority contributing urged residents to stay indoors and warn flooded roads and monitoring official alert and the system slowly moving eastward. A massive storm system sweeping across Europe was unleashing destructive winds related to rain and catastrophic flooding that has now impacted at least 8 countries. Meteorologists say the storm intensified and usually quickly driving a rare combination of warm Atlantic water and a deep Arctic cold plunge. In Germany, communities along the Danube and Rhine faced their worst flooding in more than a decade. Entire streets disappeared underground. Fast-moving water as emergency crews rescue families trapped in the victims. The river rose nearly a meter in less than 3 hours, said hydrologist Petra Klavin. This is not a normal event. France reported widespread damage as a wind gust approached 115 km/h, ripping apart coastal infrastructure. In Brittany, fishing boats broke free from the mourning, while inland regions safely flashed flood in covered highways and swept away vehicles. Everything happening so quickly. The road became a river, said resident Jean Dunham. In Italy, heavy rainfall triggered landslides across hilly roads, with the mud and debris cutting access to multiple mountains villages. Tuscany regional residents described the situation as the chain reaction of flooding, landslides, and infrastructure failures. Belgium and the Netherlands activated flood-deafening system as rivers surged dangerously close to overflow levels. Engineer monitoring alike the warm and extreme stress caused the back-to-back storm saturating the soil. Dutch officials temporarily closed tunnel roads and urged residents to avoid coastal areas. Further east, Poland, Austria, and Czech Republic are now bracing for the storm's second wave, with the forecaster predicting another 48 hours of rain. Rain service have been disrupted across the region. Airports are experiencing rolling cancellation and thousands remain without power. Climate specialists emphasize that three events are becoming more frequent. Europe is entering a new era where the voluntary, Dr. said Sophia Markin of European Climate Center. Every year, the threshold of we consider extreme shift a little further. Authorities continue to warn residents to stay away from flooded zones and follow evacuation order as the storm slowly advances across the continent. Europe, a powerful storm system has swept across large parts of Europe, bringing torrential rain, hurricane-force winds and widespread disruption from Spain to Germany. Named Storm Isadora by meteorologists, the violent weather left a trail of chaos, flooding streets, uprooted trees and cutting power of hundreds and thousands of homes. In France, wind exceeded 113 km an hour, battered the Atlantic coast, triggered roofs, the rebuilding and forced them to temporarily close it to Eiffel Tower due to safety risks. In Paris, emergency service reported over 500 calls overnight as fallen trees blocked major roads and debris littered the city. It felt like the city is breathing in chaos, said local resident Luca Mori. The wind was howling like a violent rain. Further south Spain, in Daphne, the relentless downpour that triggered flash flooding in parts of Valencia and Barcelona. Submerged cars and flooded metro station. Emergency crew carried out multiple water rescuing in resources as rainfall reached record-breaking levels, over 120 mm in 24 hours, according to the Spanish Meteorological Agency. Major boulevard from Camps Elias and Boulevard Saint Germain turned to Russian River, submerged vehicles including metro station. The Red B and Light 7 were partly suspended water pouring on the tracks, while traffic ground and half along the scene were rising water tethering the riverbanks and cafes. The water came like in a wave, said cafe owner Matra Founder. Those small restaurant near multiple that flooded with a minute. People were screaming, chairs were flooding. It felt like a city was drawing. The Louvre Museum and Musée Old Drive both activated flood protection barriers, moving earthworks to underground at the higher floors, a precaution not taken since the Great Flood of 2016. The Eiffel Tower temporarily closed a light storm struck nearly creating a surreal stain that thinly echoes across the darkened skyline. Authorities reported no fatalities, though at least 14 people were rescued from submerged vehicles and several were treated to hypothermia. Emergency crew worked throughout the night and pumped water from the metro tunnels and cleared fallen trees that blocked roads in the 16th and 19th arrondissements. A powerful wave of hailstorm has battered several parts of Europe, leaving communities struggled with the damage, disruption and shock. The severe weather-struck countries including Italy, France, Germany and Switzerland were hailstorm the size of a golf ball. In the same areas, even larger fell in devastation force. In northern Italy, vineyards in Lombardy and Veneto were shattered with farmers reported crops losses of up to 18%. It's heartbreaking, said vineyard Gula Benager. Surrounding the roof of destroyed vines. A whole year work lost in 15 minutes. France also suffered widespread chaos. In Lyon and Dijon, streets turned white into hail blanket cars and black drains, caused sudden flash floods. Motorways were brought in standstill and authorities reported dozens of incidents and drivers struggled with the ice conditions. In southern Germany, roofs were smashed and a window shattered, particularly in Bavaria, where emergency crews responded to thousands of calls within hours. Several European countries are assessing the damage after severe hailstorm swept across the continent, leaving a trail of destruction from France and Italy to Germany, Austria and Switzerland. The storm intensified the unstoppable air masses that collided over Central Europe, produced hailstones the size of a tennis ball that smashed a car, damaged roofs and injured hundreds of people. In northern Italy, cities in Lombardy and Veneto saw streets covered in ice and hospitals treated dozens and partying for cars in a heat injury caused by broken glass. In Bavaria, Germany, cars were left covered in dents and vineyards suffered catastrophic damage. It was like bombing, saying Hans Killer, a farmerist near Munich. In 10 minutes, our entire harvest were destroyed. Austria, also facing chaos in emergency service, responded to collapsed roofs and blocked highways. In Switzerland, tourists in Lorenz and Alps captured dramatic footage in hailstones, spilled it up like snowdrifts, transformed summer landscape in winter owns. Flights in Zurich and Geneva airports were delayed and cancelled after hail-damaged parked planes. Meteorologists said the storm was caused by the collisions between the Mediterranean air and the cold northern front, exacerbating the recorded summer heat across Europe. Scientists warn that climate change is contributed to more frequent and destructive hailstorms and in the continent growing climate-related problems. Agriculture has been hit hardest, heat damaged estimates of hundreds and millions of euros. Vineyard, orange and cornfield across Central Europe has been destroyed, threatening both in local economy and a food supply chain. Insurance companies are already preparing for one of the most expensive weather events in the year. Government has promised to provide assistance and clean up on the aftermath and the initial disaster by sending soldiers in the rural area to clear roads and protect damaged homes from the further rain. However, for the many residents, the storm was stuck remaining in the increasing severity of extreme weather events. A violent storm has battered Germany, causing strong winds, torrential rain and widespread disruption north from the North Sea to Bavaria. The system, one of the most intense of the season, was uprooted trees, torn off roofs and left hundreds of thousands of people without power. In Hamburg and Bremen, storm surge flooded riverside neighborhoods and emergency crews rushed to build bird as the Elbe River overflowed. In Berlin, fallen trees blocked major roads in the tram lines, forcing communities to find alternative routes. airports. Munich International Airports reported more than 100 cancelled flights, while trains in Bavaria and Saxony were halted due to the debris in tracks. Authorities confirmed multiple fatalities, including driver crushed by the fallen trees and rescue workers swept away by the floodwaters. Dozens of people were injured by many debris flying through the city center. Hospital reported an increase in emergency admissions overnight. Residents described the storm as apocalyptic. The wind sounded like a freight train outside my window. We were building and shaking, said Anne Miller, a resident of Berlin. Ile-de-France region. Bringing hurricane force winds, torrential rain, and intense lighting that lit up the Parisian skyline. When our iconic boulevards were transformed into rivers, metro stations were flooded, and thousands were left without electricity. According to Meteorologists, when the gust exceeded 120 km/h in parts of the capital, with more than 16 millimeters of rainfall in just 3 hours, an amount normally seen over several weeks. The Seine River rose rapidly and water poured in unprecedented to underground car park near the city center. I feel like the sky exploded, said Marie Larrier, a resident of Montreal district. It was a thunder every few seconds, windows shaking and water gushing through the streets like a waterfall. Emergency service received over 1,200 calls during the night, rescuing driving trapped in submerged tunnels and responded to multiple reports of fallen trees. In the 15th arrondissement, the large earth collapsing out parked vehicles were parts of the Champs-Élysées were perilously closed due to debris. We are dealing with a widespread roof-damaging power outage, said Bavarian Fire Chief Markus Keller, who described the situation as apocalyptic. In southern France, vineyard and orange severely damaged, with some region reported a total loss of crops. Farmers in province of Rhone-Alpes region experienced a disaster after huge hailstones destroyed their vineyards. The storm took everything. Laminate Windmark Palt Gerard, the harvest we have been waiting for all year, is gone. In Central and Eastern Europe, hailstorm intensified. In Poland, the city of Krakow was hit by torrential rain, with freezing rain that flooded streets and damaged cars. In Austria, large hailstones caused flights delays and forced airports the close temperatures. Meteorologists attributed this storm weather is unstable atmospheric layers, which are intensified due to global warming. Europe is now experiencing for more connective storms, phenomena accompanied by supercell lighting and giant hailstones, explained Dr. Petra Long in the European Meteorological Observatory. This is not a longer rarity, is becoming part of new normal. Authorities across the continent continue to assess the damage, warning the future determination is weather conditions. While cleanup crews work to repair the damage caused by the ice storm, many residents describe the surreal scene. Summer streets transformed into winter landscape in a matter of minutes. Farmers estimated the dramatic it's $1 million especially in vineyards that produced world-famous wines. It's devastating, said Jean-Paul Lefroy, a winemaker near Lyon. In just 10 minutes, the works in the entire season was destroyed. Further east in Croatia and Slovenia, hailstones the size of eggs smashed windows and stripped streets bare. Emergency service worked through the night and cleared debris to restore power to affected areas. Local authority described the damage as serious and extensive. Meteorologists across Europe are linking the surge in severe hailstorm to rising temperature and atmospheric instability. The Mediterranean is warming faster than the global average, warning climatologist Dr. Elena Moretti. This creates ideal conditions to explosive storm to formation of giant hailstorm. The European Severe Laboratory reported that more than 400 hail-related incidents were recorded in 34 hours, of extremely high number of October. Experts warn that such events once considered rare and now become more common due to the effects of climate change. Cleanup efforts are underway across the continent and insurance companies are assessing the extent of the damage. From broken skylights in Rome and flooded streets in Munich and storage fury that what yet another stark reminder that Europe weather is becoming more unpredictable and dangerous than ever before. Several metro stations were forced to close after water cascaded down, stairways were portions of rail line were suspended, at least 14 flights were delayed or diverted on Charles de Gaulle and Orly airports, and again about 114 km on our battered runway. The 11 tower safety lights temporarily shut down due to the electrical surge in the 17th around this in a section of scaffolding for the nearby structure, cities collapsing on the streets. Miraculously, no fatalities were reported. 35 people were injured, including 2 firefighters. Paris Major Ana Hidalgo called on an emergency meeting early Wednesday, urging counter promises with restoration efforts. Our infrastructure, who pushed to the limits, she said. These events once again demonstrated the urgent need to climate adaptation in urban areas. Meteorologists described the storm as one of the most intense connective systems in decades, caused by the collisions in a humid Mediterranean air with a cold front swept in the Atlantic. This class generation a supercell system production extreme lighting activity to flash flooding across central France. Across social media, dramatic footage showed hail blanket sidewalks like a snow, bases standing in rising water and a lighting bolt sinking near the egg dead termite. Venice activated an immense flood barrier system, but parts in the historic city still soak needy water as waves pushed inland. The lagoon looked like an open sea, said board Apiro Marco-Bellini. Eastern Europe was not spared. Slovenia and Croatia reported landslides after saturated soil gave way on a steep hillsides. In parts of Balkans, power outage affected tens of thousands. According to climate analyst Dr. Helena Kraus, the storms are behavior reflect warrior trends. Warmer sea surface and unstable air masses are creating storms that develop further in heat harder. Europe seeing events that used to be rare becoming more frequent. Across the continent, airports in Prague, Zurich, Frankfurt and Milan experienced major delays. Schools in several regions remain closely to safety. Insurance experts estimated early damage could exceed hundreds of millions of euros. Authority warned strong winds and rising rivers may continue through the next 24 hours, urged people to avoid coastal area and fast-moving waterways. In Germany, the region most affected torrential rain overwhelmed drainage system from Bavaria to North Rhine-Westphalia, rapid flash flooding, inundated basements, underground parking lots and railway tunnels. In Rhine, it now is its high level in the season, forcing to clutch soon in shipped roads. It was terrible, say Munich shop owner Anna Baker. When in minutes the water rushed under the doors as a dam had burst. Central Europe faced equally several conditions. Austria and Czech Republic and Slovakia reported landslides after the rain-saturated slope gave way. Train service across the region were suspended due to debris falling in tracks. Emergency service described the workload and almost non-stop. Meanwhile, southern region of Italy and Slovenia experienced flash flood caused by the sudden downpour. Several sounded throughout the Venice and high tides combined with the storm surge flooded historic squares. Experts warn that this situation is becoming increasingly common. Storm systems in Europe are intensifying, say climatologist Dr. Yelena Karas. Warning ocean and unstable air currents are exacerbating extreme precipitation and winds. Authorities are urging residents to avoid rivers, stay indoors, and prepare to more severe weather and storm continue to move eastward. Communities across Europe are in shock after a series of rare and powerful tornadoes swept through the parts of Germany, France and Czech Republic, leaving widespread destruction in their wake. Authorities have confirmed numerous casualties and more than 200 injured with the homes destroyed, cars overturned and power lines down it. Western Germany was the hardest hit with powerful wind which swept throughout the residential area. Porto injured dozens of people and damaged hundreds of buildings. Roofs were turned off, trees were uprooted and debris was scattered across highways. It was like a fire train rushing throughout the city, said Catherine Miller, who took shelter in a basement with their family. In northern France, a tornado stuck near Calais overturned trucks on the A18 motorway and forcing several paths to close. Residents are decided chaos in the hail, lightning and stones wind battered cities already drenched in the heavy rain. The Czech Republic, still resilient from the devastating tornado in 2021, reported another several storms in southern Bavaria, where homes and farms again destroyed it. Emergency service rushed to help stranded residents and volunteers working through the night to clear debris from narrow rural streets. Meteorologists say the tornadoes formed after the mass of hot Mediterranean air collided with the cold front moving from the Arctic, creating unstable conditions ideal to supercell storms. Experts warn that the climate change could make Europe more vulnerable to such rare but devastating events. Tornadoes were once considered almost impossible here, explained climatologist Dr. Helena Novak. Now they are becoming a dangerous new reality. The infrastructure of the three countries suffered serious damage. Rail service was suspended, tens of thousands of people were left without power due to power outage, and schools were closed to several regions. Insurance companies estimate the damage in the hundreds of millions of euros. Despite the devastation, there are stories of resilience. Neighbors formed human change of cleared debris, firefighters rescued trapped families, and the shelters opened their doors to lose their homes. As Europe begins the long process of recovery, the tornado several stuck reminded that extreme weather is no longer confined to remote regions. It now process to grow through to here to the continent. A powerful Atlantic storm swept across much of Europe, bringing destructive winds, torrential rain and widespread destruction to normal life from France to Germany, Italy and the Balkans. Meteorological Service reported wind gusts exceeded 115 km/h, calling the storm one of the most aggressive front of the season. In northern France, coastal towns were hit by strong waves crashing against sea walls, forcing authority to carry out evacuations. Paris authority reported hundreds of fallen trees causing delays in transport lines. The winds sounded like a freight train, said residents. Eladin Martin. "We never seen such strong gusts in November." Germany recorded some of the heaviest rainfall, with some areas of Bavaria and North Rhine-Westphalia receiving a month worth of rain in 24 hours. Emergency service responded to dozens of flash flooding incidents. The levels of several rivers, including the upper tributaries of the Danube, raised rapidly, and official warning that they could continue to rise. On a Monday, tornadoes swept through the area in North Paris, knocking down trees, construction cranes, killing one person and seriously injuring four others, authorities say. The town of Airmont, located about 20 km northwestern of Paris, was hardest hit, with a sudden whirlwind damaged about 10 neighborhoods. Regional professor Gilles Rebras said 23-year-old construction worker died at a construction site and 10 people were injured, for them critically. Authorities said the tornado knocked down cranes and turned uproot. Interior Minister Larry News said to Platform X that was a storm, a sudden of rare intensity. He added, "I am closely monitoring the situation and experienced by a support official. Rescue at the scene the affected residents. I offer my condolences on the family and loved one of the deceased." Paris, the French capital, was brought to standstill on Wednesday, and the night a sudden and violent storm swept across northern France, unleashed torrential rain, fires, winds, and dramatic lightning over the heart of Paris. Within just 19 minutes, more than 100 millimeters of rain fell in a hardest downpour recorded in over 2 decades. It's the most extreme rainfall ever we recorded in Italy winter, noted meteorologist Dr. Janice Miller. For the East Australia, Hungary and the Czech Republic activated national emergency protocols after sudden cold bursts overwhelmed drainage networks. Railway operations reported widespread cancellation, with the passengers stranded in station overnight. In the South, Italy, Slovenia and Croatia faced violent thunderstorm had rising levels. Venice activated and immersed fluid barriers, but even with the definite rising parts of the city experienced aqua alta flooding. Climatologists watch the storm and usual strength in the high energy jet streams. Warning seas in the eastern Atlantic are injecting more moisture into these systems, explained climate analyst Dr. Sophia Ricci. When they collide with the cold continental air, the results are explosive. European authorities are urged residents to stay indoors, avoid flooded areas, and expect further disruption as the storm continues in slow destructive march across the continent. The Spanish Meteorological Service has declared a red alert for the eastern parts of the Valencia region due to heavy rain. Thursday, a repeat of the flooding that killed 235 people in the area last October. Spanish National Meteorological Service warned of extreme danger and a very difficult situation in Tarragona, Castilla and Valencia on a Sunday and Monday. On this warning was echoed Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez. Citing of meteorological warning, Sanchez urged citizens to follow the instruction of the emergency service to all times. Local official announced that school and college libraries and parks, as well as public space including gardens, markets and cemeteries, would be closed in the Valencia on a Monday. Overnight rains caused local flooding and overflowing of Arroyo Aldea, one of the town hardest hit by October 2024 flooding that killed more than 213 people. No casualties have been reported. On a Sunday afternoon, residents of the city received a red weather alert on this phone. The flooding caused by heavy rains in October last year were exacerbated by the effect of climate change. As a warning atmosphere holds more water, climate change increasing the risk and intensity of the flood from extreme rainfall. Local residents stretched to a series of protests against for the believed this mismanagement of last year's crisis calamity. The regional offices did not warn in the time, despite the fact that Meteorological Service had issued warning. Italy also felt the full force of the storm. In Venice, high tides combined with the storm surge flooded the streets, forced authorities to deploy mobile fruit barriers. Firefighters in Tuscany carried out more than 300 rescue operations after roofs were blown off and power lines collapsed. The ground shock from the wind, said Alessandro Rossi, who lost parts of the workshop. Meteorologist Dr. Sofia Lehmann told the BBC, the storm is unusual in the size of the speed. Warm sea temperatures contributed to its intensity, allowed to the rapidly intensify as moving inland. Across the continent, more than 700,000 households were temporarily without power. Airports in Amsterdam, Munich, Geneva and Milan reported flight cancellation and significant delays. At least a dozen injured have been confirmed, although officials fear the number could rise and the situation continued to be easy. Authorities are urged residents to remain cautious as strong winds and unstable trees could pose a danger. Even after the storm moved eastward, flood warning remained in effect in several countries. Europe is rooted after the wave of powerful storms swept across the continent, bringing hurricane-force wind, torrential rain, hail and flooding from Spain to Poland. Authorities have confirmed dozens of fatalities and hundreds of injured, with hundreds of thousands of households remain without electricity. In France, Paris and hammered by heavy rain is a lighting force to close up the metro lines and grounded flights to Charlotte the airport. Streets and line and Bordeaux turned into rivers. An emergency crew reported more than 5,000 clouds overnight. Germany also brought to breath with a tornado like a wind north Rhine-Westphalia, ripping roofs to homes and uprooted trees. Rail service were suspended, highway blocked, and the school closed to official urged residents to stay indoors. It felt like the sky exploded, said Jens Fischer, with so calls lifted to overturned by sudden gusts. In Italy, Venice and Milan were swept by the flash floods, while the Rome enduring the violent hailstorm that shattered windows and damaged cars. Authorities warned to rising river levels in the north, in the fear of further flooding in the Po Valley. Spain forcing massive coastal swells and lightning storms, particularly in Barcelona and Valencia, with Poland and Czech Republic struggled with the power cuts and transportation shutdowns after gale force winds across Central Europe. Airports across the continent suffered several days while thousands of travelers were stranded with the train station. Insurance provider estimates the damage could reach billions of euros after gale force winds across Central Europe. Airports across the continent suffered several days with thousands of Mediterranean said the storm system was following the coastal line by a Mediterranean air called Atlantic Front, creating a volatile chain reaction across Europe. Scientists the climate change is making such extreme wide-reaching weather events increasingly frequent.
Contenedor y el coche. El contenedor y el coche. Madre mía, mira cómo baja. Mira cómo baja, madre mía. Madre mía. Esto me da miedo.
Several meteorologists, including lines 1, 4, and 13, experienced major distortion as the water swept in the station. Communities forced long delay with their rapid urgent residents to avoid necessary travel. Power outage left more than 25,000 homes in the dark, particularly in the Paris southern suburbs. The storm also damaged parts in the Eiffel Tower lighting system, forcing engineers to shut it off to safety inspirations. Lighting stuck near Notre Dame Cathedral, creating dramatic by the homeless flash captured by onlookers. Paris Mayor Anne Hidalgo urged calm, praising first response to their swift action. Our city was forced severe weather before, but the intensity of the last night's storm show how climate change is amplifying these events, she said. We will assist all those affected. They struggled our flood resilience. Meteorologists described the storm as one of the most violent in decades as a result of a powerful Atlantic depression scalding with warm continental air from the northern France. Experts warn that such extreme weather events could become more frequent if Europe's climate continues to warm. By morning, Parisians emergency to survive the damaged streets, literally the branches flooded, cave terrace, and disrupted train schedule. Yet a month aftermath when also relief, clear skies returned the city resilient spirit shone through the once again.
I couldn't.